Gettysburg Museum of History Studios.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special promotion for our Get Out of the Car tours. The Get Out of the Car tours for 2026 are back in Gettysburg. That's right. We're back in Gettysburg, our home, where we belong, where we love the ground and everything else. Joining me today is Lewis Trott, licensed battlefield guide extraordinaire. Hello, Lewis.
Hello, Matt.
And also we are joined by Eric Houston, patron turned organizer of the Get Out of the Car tours. He's taken it off my hands, ladies and gentlemen. And man, this has been easy.
Officially director of programming for Digital History Pioneers.
That's true. We also gave him a title there. You should.
I'm going to make it out of just cardstock. Out of my own outer crayon.
Cardboard cutouts with crayon.
And in the back is our friend Tad running the cameras. Hey, Tad, there he is.
Hello.
Thaddeus. So the first Get Out of the Car tour this year, and all of them actually, are going to be a little different than what you might be used to. You might be used to a 2-hour tour that is done in the traditional sense, right? Lewis leads us and we walk around. Maybe he'll read some things. Maybe he'll have some pictures or something, and he'll have us read about somebody or whatever, some interactive stuff. But it is your standard tour with a tour guide leading you around for 2 hours. Well, we decided we're going to try to change things up a bit. Somebody once told me, in his experience with nonprofits, when we would do an event for 5 years, that was about the longest you had before people started going, been there, done that, right? So we thought, well, we're kind of like shaking things up this year and last year and this year. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the format that we used on the anniversary shows for 2025 and the soon to be released as of the recording of this show, Tavern Talks. And that is, we flipped the script a little bit. We put the audience, maybe a little bit more important than the historian, than the guide, or at least on an equal footing. And we discuss the subject. So now, instead of going and getting a tour of, in this case, the Wheatfield, we're going to go and we're going to discuss the Wheatfield. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a knowledge of the Wheatfield prior to doing this. You can come cold, and I think it'll still be interesting for you to be able to see and hear people interacting on the spot where it happened, sharing the stories that they like about that particular piece of ground, whichever one it is. And I think it'll be rewarding and fun for all of us to do it this year this way. The theme of the year, of all the tours of the year, is decision points, which I love that. And go ahead, Lewis, tell us about the Wheatfield and the decision points and all that. What can we expect? Go ahead. You guys, you figured it out. You tell us what the hell it is we're doing this year.
All right. And to piggyback off what you said, this is more of less me rambling on for 2 hours and having the flag bearer fall out or anything else that makes it memorable. But it's more, there's a lot of smart people out there that know a lot about this battle and the Civil War in general. Rich Snyder comes to mind. To have more of an interaction like you did at the Tavern Talks and the anniversary shows, which I partook in the July 2nd one. But to have more interaction between me and everybody that attends, because everybody has thoughts, ideas, opinions about what went on and what should have went on, what was good, what was bad, etc. So it's more of an interactive thing than just, like you mentioned, the standard 2-hour tour while I'm out there rambling. Yeah. And tired at the end because I've talked more.
And by the way, it's nothing against you rambling, right? People enjoy that, but nobody else cares what the audience thinks or has to say.
We wanted to include the audience more. Yeah,
we do actually care because, I mean, like from my point of view, the reason I got into doing it this way is because I'm not a PhD. I'm nothing against PhDs. But I'm not a person who goes around calling myself an historian. I'm not. I am a student of history, and I will always be for the rest of my life a student of history. But I have ideas, I have thoughts, I have analyses, I have whatever. And if I do, then that means a lot of other people do. And I'd like to know what other people think, aside from whoever is leading the tour, a guide, a ranger, a professor. I don't care. That is it's different. It's just different. And nobody does that. Nobody seems to care what the people who support them think about the battle and know about the battle. But we do, because the people who support us are very important to us, because without them, we don't have Addressing Gettysburg. So it's time to turn the spotlight on them, I think, after all these years.
And it's about learning.
Yeah.
It's about learning. And the phrase Peter Carmichael used, and that's where I got it from for the little description, is this is the biggest classroom you could have. The field is the classroom, and you can go out there and learn. And, compared to others, I live close by, hour and a half, but, some people Jeff lives in New York or what have you, that's a lot farther away. To have this giant classroom right here on our back step, so to speak, we got to take advantage of it. And we're all out there learning. Yeah. I don't know everything. Clearly, I don't know everything. As far as guides go, I'm down here. Got a bunch up here. But we're all out there learning from each other. And I pick up stuff from other people, Rich Snyder, that know a lot because they have either had just an immense interest from childhood in it, or they have an ancestor, in Rich's case, and they're continually learning. Well, to share that with the rest of us, we can all learn together, and we're going to include everybody. And the way these will go is we'll start. I'll give you some historical analysis about where we're standing, the subject matter is, how we got to that point. And I'll go into it a little bit, and then we'll have questions. I'll put forth some questions. What do y'all think about this? And some of those questions are already in the descriptions that are put online. So think about that if you're coming to one of those tours. Mm-hmm. And then inevitably questions arise as we go forward.
And I lost it. Oh, the other thing about it is that this was Cindy's idea, because she's not interested in history. Probably like Ashley, right? Your beloved. She tolerates it. So does Cindy. Love. Yeah, right. Cindy comes along on the tours because she is a dutiful girlfriend, right? Yeah. But she's bored to tears, not because of you, but because of the subject. She just doesn't care, right?
After getting drug all over the field by a dog,
and the dog, the dog drags her all over the place. So
she doesn't end up hating the dog.
I know, I do. No, I don't. So Cindy said to me, she goes, what would be nice to do with the Get Out of the Car tours? And I said, what? And she goes, make them shorter. She goes, 45 minutes, hour tops. And she goes, call them micro tours, call them whatever you want to. But I really think for people like me who are dragged along to support their Getty's nerd spouse or significant other, that would be kind of merciful, And I said, that's not a bad idea. And then I thought about it. And a lot of times at an hour and a half, people end up leaving early because they have another thing they're going to at 1, and they want to go back to the hotel and freshen up so they don't stink from sweating on the tour with us. And so it's like, well, why don't we try that? Why don't we try to do 45 minutes to an hour, make it palatable, digestible, and fun and interactive for everybody. And so those are the two big changes this year in format of the Get Out of the Car tours. We're not going to take up so much of your morning, and we're looking to interact with you. We want to know what you think about the battle in all these different things. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This is your chance to show off what you know.
And there's not enough. There's not as much walking. There is some walking. Point A, point B on a couple of the tours.
3 of them. We move a little bit, but
but we're not just. Because they won't let us anymore. Trudge through untrampled ground. Well, so that's mile.
That's another thing. Another reason why we had to change format is because, and this is, I guess, semantics, but like the park will say they're not restricting access, but to people who are used to unfettered access, it feels restrictive. Okay, we used to be able to go anywhere. When the Get Out of the Car tour started, the whole purpose of them was to get out of the car and go where you need to walk to in order to see these places, because you can't see them from the road. And that has been kind of killed, not by us, but by the change in the way the park operates things. And so we could sit and bitch about it and whine, or we can adapt. And so that's what we're doing. We're adapting. So we can't get out of the car and traipse all over willy-nilly. This is the other thing, is your route has to be pre-approved, and then you have to stick to it. If you deviate from it, you get into trouble. So we figured it would be easier. Let's shrink down the time. Let's make it more about discussion and study, and let's be out in the field in one area, and we don't have to go all over the place and worry about sticking to the route, because that's the other thing too. If we're trying to do this format and, people are really getting excited into it, it's like, oh, if somebody mentions a marker off in the woods or something, and somebody's like, well, let's go see it. And everybody's like, yeah, let's go see it. And then, we can't. Yeah. We can't go and see it. But if we're kind of just standing in one spot the whole time and there isn't a lot of walking around, I think that we'd be less.
And with one of the key words I think for this year is about engagement, right? Mm-hmm. We want to engage. It gives people coming to these tours a different way to engage with the battlefield, with the history. They're not just listening. And you and I have talked, I've done a lot of tours in the last few years. And, at a certain point, you kind of get toured out. As much as the tour guides are great and you love them, I know I do. I sit there and I get a lot of thoughts, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know about that. I'd like to, question that a little bit, or have a discussion about that.
And you go home and tell your wife, and she doesn't care.
Yeah, she doesn't care. But with being engaged, the way we want to be engaged, and we do have very minimal movement. Like you said, I think in 3 of these, the Wheatfield, we do move a little bit in the Wheatfield.
Yep.
Sickles. Once we go there, we'll move a little bit. Sickles, we move a little bit. So when we get to those, we'll talk about them. But, by not moving, I've done a lot of these tours where we move and you end up with a line of people that's a mile and a half long.
Caterpillars.
And you lose, you might be on a 2-hour tour, but you lose a half an hour of it because people are walking and trying to get there. So,
and the other thing,
this gives us more time to focus and talk and be.
That's a great point.
Involved.
We do often have to wait for people to catch up. Yeah.
And the other thing I'd point out, and I was emailing James from Project Past about this last weekend.
Jimmy Cosgrove.
Yeah. It's impossible to understand a battle unless you walk the ground.
Yeah.
And in this case, just simply standing in an area and talking about it, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
You learn more than grabbing a book. It's good to have the background knowledge from a book. Like I showed you, I'm reading a book about Arnhem right now. I've never been to Arnhem. So they're talking about the bridges and the canal. I don't know what that looks like. Never been there. You see a picture, but that doesn't do it justice. No. Maps don't. To stand in the Wheatfield, you realize the Wheatfield's not flat. There's a ridge that goes across it. And you see the stone wall where the 17th Maine ends up in the 2 ridges on the west and east side of it. You don't know that from a map. They'll tell you, but you don't know what it looks like until you stand there. And it just facilitates greater learning and understanding. And that's what we're doing also.
Yep. And it gives you a chill. It's like a different feeling to stand there on a tour, standard tour. Definitely, listening to a story being told, or, just facts rattled off about what happened where you're standing. But I think, and I don't know, because we've never done this before, but I think to go out there with a bunch of people that are all sharing what they think about it and what they're getting out of it, the different thoughts that they're having, I think that's going to make it more exciting for everybody that's on this. Even if you don't participate and you just listen to everybody. And I encourage you to come along. If you're new to all this stuff and you're like, oh, you guys are too advanced for me. No, this is for everybody still. We want you to come along. If you feel like you don't belong here, you belong here more than anybody, because everybody has been there. Everybody wants to share what we know about this. We love it. We find it fascinating, and we think you will too. And who better to go to than enthusiasts to learn all this stuff? And yeah, people get it wrong, right? Not everybody gets everything right. That's why we have a guide there, because he's going to make sure that we're not stupid.
And I'll give a shout out back to the, I can't remember. I think it might've been the day 3 recording, when Jeff and maybe it was day 2. Cause I don't know. Anyway, Jeff and Brandy came down. I think it was the first time Brandy was.
It was the second time Brandy was there. Brandy came to 2 because.
Yeah. But the first one she came to because I think you asked,
that was
were you drug here? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that was July 2nd. She came for.
So that was July 2nd, but there was somebody that she admittedly was not overly interested in it, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
But quickly became engaged and was asking great questions. And so that's what we want out of this, is it doesn't just have to be.
That's a great example.
It doesn't have to be the nerdy guy that spends all his time studying the book and the map.
Right. Yeah. The nerdy guy's disinterested wife is the one who we want to come.
Anybody does the same thing. And she might not understand it, and she probably is never going to understand it because she's not going to read about it, but she enjoys the people.
Yeah.
I mean, Estella and Glenn are lifelong friends. We hear from them all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a Christmas card from them.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always contacting Ashley. Mm-hmm. And it's through this that we've all met. And the people.
Let me ask Tad real quick. Tad, you're not interested in this history stuff, but you've been around with us for several months now, since the summer.
Yeah.
Now you're more on the production side of things. That's where your interests lie. But like, what do you think of all the history stuff that you've been exposed to? Do you become interested in it, or are you just like, this is just, I want to just, use the camera and edit?
Well, I mean, and I mentioned this to you actually just the other day that, so I was on the movie that was shooting recently to recording this, Gettysburg 1863, and we shot part of it in Harper's Ferry. Well, I've been working with Matt on editing the Tavern Talk, the John Brown Tavern Talk, for several months. So I was exposed to that every day in like the conversations, and then finding information about it to put into the video, into the edit. So then actually being there at Harper's Ferry for this completely unrelated thing was a very kind of surreal feeling.
Yeah.
It was a cool one. And I texted you a photo of the fort that I saw there. And, as I was sort of looking at it, I was like, dang, this is cool. So kind of tangentially a little bit, I think, I am starting to, I wouldn't necessarily say this is still like an interest of mine. I wouldn't say I'm
okay, shut up. No, we don't need to hear.
Are you going to want to take the guide test in 10 years? We got you.
No, I'm just teasing, Tad. You don't have to shut up. But I get, but yeah, you're not like super history nerd now because of it. But you're not, this is boring. Like, you're actually finding it a little interesting. And when you make that connection, when you're working on a video and I went down and shot footage of the fort in the town and everything, and we're putting it into the video of the Tavern Talk, but now you're actually there standing in that spot, and you've heard the story enough from the Tavern Talk, and you've seen the footage that I shot, and now there's the spot that you're looking at with your own eyes. It's different. It just hits different.
It's very different, and it is a very cool thing. Like, it was one of those moments where I stood there and I was like, oh my God, okay, I get it. I kind of get the feeling, and I get the experience, and I get why it's a big thing for so many people. But then sort of going back to Lewis, what you were saying about how a lot of this is just the people and the community. It is part of the reason why I like, I'm here on a Saturday afternoon when I wasn't necessarily intending to, but I like being here, and I like, being with all of you people and talking with everybody and interacting with everybody that comments. And it's a nice community, and it's a nice thing that you guys have here. And I think it is very inviting for people who maybe do feel a bit intimidated or feel like this, they couldn't ever get into this. It's a nice space, and it's a nice community to really start to learn if you want.
I agree. Well said.
That very well said. That was one take that he read that script in. That was perfect.
But he practiced all the morning. That's why I didn't get here.
That's why I wasn't here. Yeah.
All right. So
that was a whole other episode. Why you should come to the tours.
So the question we want to know on the April 25th, 2026 tour at 10 a.m. is, which brigade commanders exercised efficient control over their troops in the Wheatfield on July 2nd, 1863? Which decisions were made that most affected the outcome of this fight? And what was the decision to funnel more and more Union troops into this cauldron? I like that word, the right one. So that's what we're going to discuss. Now, don't give the answer.
Oh, I'm not.
I mean, because there isn't the answer, right? These are opinions.
Yeah.
Right? But give us some information surrounding those questions that might help people form their opinion.
All right. What I'm going to do,
or whatever you're planning on,
and I'm going to give a
30,000
view of what happens in the Wheatfield.
Wonderful.
So, and I think I've captured it all. If I haven't, don't post on there. Oh, you missed this. No shit, Sherlock. You should edit that out.
Thanks, Liz.
So this is the 30,000 view, because it is very confusing. Before I get started, the book that I recommend from this is a small book by Jay Jorgensen, The Bloody Wheatfield. it is the best way to try to understand what goes on. And like I've been telling Eric, the maps he uses, if you put every unit that's in the wheat field at any given time during this action on the map, it's just a jumbled mess.
Mm-hmm.
So his maps consist of the units that he's talking about in that time frame and nobody else. See, you got to go back and look where other units are, but it helps you understand what various units are doing at a particular time. So here's the 30,000 view of what happens. Sickles moves out. On the left of that line is de Trobriand's brigade. There's a gap between his brigade and Hobart Ward's brigade in Devil's Den. George Burling's brigade, who's in Humphrey's division of Sickles' corps, George Burling's brigade is pulled. It's his reserve. He's pulled from that area, and it's sent willy-nilly regiments to different spots. So it's essentially operating as a non-brigade. The 115th Pennsylvania and the 8th New Jersey from that brigade moves to the area south of the Stony Hill. So it's attempting to extend de Trobriand's line further to, that'd be the southeast. At this point, the 17th Maine and the 40th New York are up on Stony Hill. They are facing west. They are essentially de Trobriand's reserve at this point. To extend his line and fill that gap between his brigade and Ward's brigade, the 17th Maine is pulled from Stony Hill and moves down to the stone wall at the southern end of the wheat field. After this happens, that's when Brigadier General Anderson's Confederate brigade attacks the 17th Maine. It's about 4:45 at this point. The units in Devil's Den area have already been attacked by portions of Law's brigade and Robertson's Texan brigade. So they're already under assault. The 115th Pennsylvania and the 8th New Jersey, Burling's brigade, they suddenly leave. They get out of there. The pressure's too great. And the 115th doesn't leave the area fully. They pull back and support Winslow's battery, which is in the center of the wheat field. It's the only artillery in the wheat field facing south. When those two regiments pull back, it leaves a gap on the right end of the 17th Maine, and it's a marshy area there too as well. So that sort of helps in the defense. The 17th Maine is going to have to refuse that portion of their line. So they bend back a couple companies to form an inverted L, refusing that line because of that gap. Here's where more reinforcements start to filter in. William Tipton and Colonel Jacob Schweitzer's brigades from Tilton, yep. I said Tipton. Yeah. Tilton.
He took pictures.
Taking pictures of them fighting.
That's why you have such up-to-the-moment pictures. He's down there while it's going on.
This is why we stay engaged during these. So we can.
Yeah. I've never been much on speaking.
It's all right.
I went to Prince George's County, Southern Maryland Public Schools. It's a wonder I can read. But Tilton and Schweitzer's brigades from the 5th Corps are moved down to Stony Hill. Tilton is facing the southwest, and Tilton is facing south-southwest, and Schweitzer's facing southwest, and they're sort of stacked upon one another. It's not a very good alignment. The next Confederates move into the area to attack, and that's Brigadier General Kershaw's South Carolinian Brigade. Now, we know it's famous that the 2nd, 8th, and 3rd South Carolina Battalion attack towards the north. They're going toward that artillery in the wheat field, but there's two other regiments coming towards the wheat field and coming towards that southern edge of Stony Hill. Anderson's been knocked back by the 17th Maine. They're going to regroup, and they're going to start to attack again along that stone wall. Tilton and Schweitzer have been told by General Barnes, if the pressure gets too great, you're authorized to leave. What do? They start to leave, especially Tilton. Tilton's going to withdraw, and he gets out of the area. He's gone from the story. Schweitzer's brigade falls back just to the woods on the north side of the wheat field. What's the name of the farm? Got the hole in the barn. Just floats. Trossel farm. Those are the Trossel woods. Old age things where common things just leave my head.
This is the other reason why we're changing the format, because Lewis is losing his mind.
I have a colander brain. Some people have a trap. I got a salad
you got
thing.
A steel colander.
Yeah, that's my brain. So Schweitzer stays in that area. He doesn't leave the scene totally. And then the pressure starts to get great from de Trobriand's brigade, the 110th PA, the 5th Michigan, and the 17th Maine, they start to fall back. And the 17th Maine falls back, and they don't leave the area too. And this is, if you watch the movie, and it gets old to say this, you know about the 20th Maine, but you never hear about the 16th Maine.
Right.
Or in this case, the 17th Maine, which I think, with the 17th Maine, they could be put up for one of the most underrated regiments in this battle for what they do. Mm-hmm. And it's every bit as important. They didn't have a professor of rhetoric writing their history later on, or
that's their big problem.
Yeah. It's a lot of units is a big problem.
Yeah.
So when the 17th Maine falls back, they vacated that stone wall. That allows part of Anderson's brigade to advance into the wheat field from the stone wall area. The 17th Maine comes back, though, because they're afraid that Winslow's battery is going to be overrun at this point because they're receiving pressure from the west, pressure from the south. So they move forward enough for Winslow to get his battery out there. And then the 17th Maine is going to withdraw. And then we have Brigadier General John Caldwell's division from the 2nd Corps enter the wheat field. And there's been articles written, and a lot of times the title of it is Caldwell's division sweeps the wheat field. And that's what they do. They move from north towards the south in the general direction, and these 4 brigades push all the way through to the stone wall, and in John Brooks' case, beyond the stone wall up to a next ridge. Coming from the Confederate side, then you have another Confederate brigade, the brigade of Brigadier General Paul Semmes's brigade. They're coming up to support Kershaw's brigade in Kershaw's right rear. Kershaw's brigade has retreated after Patrick Kelly's Irish brigade has swept down to the southern end of Stony Hill and pushed them back. You have with the guy with the bandana, again, the colander. Edward Cross's brigade pushing forward on the left side of the division. They're pushing down, and they're pushing just in a general direction between the stone wall and Devil's Den. And they're pushing in sort of a southwest direction, but they're pushing through there. But then Colonel John Brooks' brigade pushes to the stone wall and beyond the stone wall, and they're pushing back Semmes and Anderson's brigades. I mean, they got a head of steam up. Problem is, they push further, and now suddenly their flanks are exposed.
Which ultimately leads to the images that we have of up in the Rose Farm Field.
Yes, yeah.
That was likely, I can't say it certainly was, but likely from Brooks' attack.
Yeah. And so they push back, and they go beyond everybody else. Their flanks are exposed, and this is a problem. And now they're going to, the problem's really highlighted when the next Confederates enter the scene, and that's Brigadier General William Wofford's brigade. They sweep down, going west to east, down the Wheatfield Road in that direction, and they got a head of steam up, and there's really nothing there to stop them. Kershaw gets his brigade together again. They join in with this attack. The remnants of Semmes and Anderson, they start to join in. And now Brooks in the Irish brigade, they have a problem because they suddenly have troops in front of them, troops to the right, and now troops behind them coming in. So they're going to have to withdraw. And Caldwell sees this as the famous scene, and like, General, I think your men are withdrawing, and they're running away. He says, no, they're being relieved. He says, no, I think they're running away. And that's when the regulars are going to come in. There's a stone wall there running north to south. They sweep over that stone wall, and they swing through the wheat field like a door. They swing like a door.
Like a door.
Yeah, they're swinging like a door, General. And the problem is when they do that, coming across that wheat field, and they're heading towards the southwest, Wofford's brigade is coming in on their right flank, and they start to fall like leaves. And that's what they're doing is untenable. They're going to have to fall back. And it's that famous saying, I think it's somebody in Weed's brigade says, for 2 years, they taught us how to be soldiers. Today, and I'm paraphrasing, today they're teaching us how to die like soldiers because they're so orderly. You read about, everybody writes, we retreated with order. We turned around and we gave, we showed them we weren't afraid. A lot of these folks are running. Sure. I don't blame them. Can't blame them. Yeah. But apparently there's eyewitnesses to how the regulars fall back out of that field. So Caldwell goes back. He gets Colonel Schweitzer to re-enter the wheat field to help support these guys that his division that's falling back. So I mentioned that they don't leave the field. They're at the southern end of Trossel Woods. Schweitzer's brigade comes back into the wheat field to help with this withdrawal because they're not going to stop anybody at this point.
Right.
But the Confederates attack drives both Caldwell's division, Schweitzer's brigade from the field. The regulars come in. They're driven back through the field. And then we have Eric, the producer's favorite unit, the Pennsylvania Reserves, under Brigadier General Samuel Crawford. He leads them, crosses that same stone wall where the regulars had to cross. They go in, and they're the ones that start to knock back the Confederates for the final time. Longstreet is going to withdraw Wofford's brigade because he probably sees all these troops. And I tell people on tours, here's the big difference, because you drive by the Sedgwick Monument. He's got 14 to 16,000 man corps. They get here. The war out. They get here, but they're here.
Right.
And you got all these men in front of you, and you don't have anything else behind you to support you. And Longstreet sees the big picture. He's going to withdraw them, but from that order and the pressure that the Pennsylvania Reserves are now putting on them, they push the Confederates back a final time, at least to Stony Hill. Kershaw's men probably stop around Stony Hill and occupy that, in the north-south line, so to speak. And that ends the fighting, except for sniping back and forth at the wheat field. It's about a 2-hour fight, starts around 5, and times are always estimates, 5 to 7. My favorite story doesn't have anything to do with decisions. And I tell everybody we always want people to be interested in what we're interested in, don't we?
Of course.
I tell everybody, my other thing is old movies. And Jimmy Stewart's grandfather fights in the wheat field on July 2nd. Colonel Samuel Jackson, the 11th Pennsylvania. If he gets killed...
No Jimmy Stewart.
No Harvey.
No Harvey. No It's a Wonderful Life.
And it's overrated. He's the quintessential.
How dare you? You're right,
You Can't Take It With You is a much better movie. Won the Oscar. Best Years of Our Lives was the best movie.
Best Years of Our Lives was good.
Top 5 movie.
Just saw that for the first time last year.
Top 5 movie.
Yeah.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, To Kill a Mockingbird. Best Years of Our Lives. What's the other one, Ashley? We were just talking about this the other day.
Are all these movies about the wheat field?
No. Jimmy Stewart's not in any of them.
I'm on a tangent. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm on a tangent. But we wouldn't have Jimmy Stewart if this guy gets killed. Imagine
I know.
That, So you have all the 12%. And I'm not, math is overrated, and I struggle with it. I can't help my kids with math now, believe it or not. And that's not a joke. I can't with their homework. 12% of the Medal of Honors awarded at Gettysburg come from the Pennsylvania Reserves. 6 of them come from the 6th Pennsylvania Reserves on July 2nd. The 7th Medal of Honor comes on the next day when one of the other units in the Pennsylvania Reserves captures the flag of a Georgia regiment. It's 12% of the 64 Medal of Honor.
I believe it. They saved the day.
Eric, the producer.
According to Eric, the producer, they saved the day.
I'm with him now. But
I think, though, that's where a lot of that, a lot of people were interested in the wheat field. I know the wheat field was always my favorite place to go, but didn't understand it at all. I still can't say that I do well.
It's very hard to understand.
But I've got a much better understanding, and I'll kind of show that later here when we're talking about some of the other stuff. But, even they're talking about the reserves. I think what a lot of people maybe don't realize is how far back the reserves started from. Like, at that point, the Confederates were all the way through the wheat field.
Yeah.
I mean, the wheat field was cleaned out of Union, and Confederates were on the other side. They're getting ready to go across Plum Run.
Yeah.
And the reserves come off the hill and push them back through. But I don't know, the reserves they never really went into the wheat field. They went to the wheat field, right? And pushed, and then the Confederates just fell back to the other side of the wheat field. And then he kind of had no man's land in between, I believe, right? Or am I wrong?
I think some followed them into the wheat field.
It's hard to stop that momentum.
Yeah. And not only that, but after all the energy and adrenaline like that it takes to get through the lake.
Well, they had pontoon bridges.
Oh, they had the pontoons.
That's where the pontoon bridges come into U.S. military history. They say, you know what? Washington got lucky in that boat. We're going to build a bridge.
Watch, somebody's going to comment, that lake wasn't there in 1863.
That's our point.
But the monuments were, so they knew where they were going.
To digress. Brief Encounter and On the Waterfront, top 5.
Okay, thank you.
On the Waterfront is the best acted movie in U.S. cinematic history. Argue with it later.
Okay, let's argue with that. Yeah, I'd have to see it. I've never seen it.
You have never seen it?
No,
I been a contender.
I only recently started getting into old movies.
Let's talk.
Yeah,
me and you.
Yeah, I'd like your list, and I'll look them up.
Yeah,
but I think where better to start the tours this year though than in the Wheatfield? Where are there more command decisions made in such a compact area? You know, we're going to talk about some of the other ones, and they might have been. There were certainly command decisions, but some of them are very large command decisions that led to a whole lot of other stuff that led to the Wheatfield.
And if you're interested, I go back. I don't know the guy, but the book by Jay Jorgensen is very easily digestible. It makes it easy.
So another one that I have here is this one. Where's the camera at?
Right in front of you.
That one up there?
Oh, no, right in front of you.
Lower. There you go.
Oh, right there it is. Hi. So this book right here, this was the book that I used the first time that I really wanted to. I'll quit moving it around. I see I'm doing a bad job of holding it. Yeah, there we go. All right. That is the book.
What is it? Say it out loud for the audio only people.
It is Don't Give an Inch, the second day at Gettysburg, from Little Round Top to Cemetery Ridge. It's an emerging Civil War book
by
Mikowski, Chris White, and Daniel Davis. I think Chris White did it. If you go through, they do a really nice job. They're, the books are a little more basic, a lot of pictures, a lot of maps,
my kind of book,
things like that. They are nice little books to get you acquainted with stuff, but specifically for this one, and I'm trying to find, here it is, Appendix A, Chris White, Pittsburgh guy, by the way. Never want to forget to throw that out. Pittsburgh guy. Chris White did a Wheatfield walking tour in this. So 3.5 years ago, I just started a new job. I had 2 weeks off in between the old job and the new job. I came down here. I just did this walking tour through the Wheatfield. This was the time that I really got to at least better understand the Wheatfield and realize that you've got people coming from all different directions. In my mind, I went into the Wheatfield thinking, it was, I know the Confederates came from over there. So they just came from over there straight to here. And they went this way and they just went back and forth. And no, it's not that. Like you mentioned, 17th Maine goes down to the stone wall. Anderson attacks from the south, and then eventually later, then it moves from where you've got Stony Hill and you've got attacks coming from the west. You got people up on Stony Hill that are looking for attacks from the west, moving to take on attacks from the south down in that marshy area. So you have all that changing and all that mix. And I think it's why everybody's so, kind of afraid of trying to learn the Wheatfield. Yeah. Want to learn, but anyway, where
do you start? It's so confusing.
This was a very nice, it was a simple, easy walk. I think I spent 2 or 3 hours. I stopped and I had my Lano map and, was looking at maps and stuff like that. Just enjoying some time by myself. But, it's again, and so what we're talking about in the engaging is, this is an opportunity then for those that want to come to the tour. You don't have to do this.
No.
You could do the Jorgen, whatever you want to do. And we're going to give you some reference material throughout this process. Gives you, if you want to go engage more, if you want to learn more of this on your own and come prepared to talk more, you can do that. If you don't want to do it that way, you want to come and just learn, listen, maybe questions will come up, because some of the best questions come from the people that have a completely different perspective because they don't have a preconceived notion of what happened here.
Right.
And why it happened here, because they didn't hear it from another, somebody told them what they were supposed to think a long time ago. So,
I think do you think we've given them enough to whet their whistle?
I think so. Yeah.
I think
and let me go back to my synopsis. I mentioned that the 17th Maine and the 40th New York on Stony Hill in the beginning. 17th Maine I've talked about. The 40th New York gets pulled as well. They go down to, they're filling the gap between Devil's Den and the slopes of Little Round Top. Plugging that hole. I just didn't want to leave that hanging. But I have thoughts on it. I'm not going to share the thoughts now because you got to come out.
You got to come out to hear Lewis's thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to meet at Winslow's Monument in the Wheatfield. You'll see us. Just look for the Addressing Gettysburg battle flag. It's on a 9-foot pole, and it's 6 by 5 feet or some odd thing like that. It's a big flag. You can't miss it. You'll see us out there in the middle of the field. Park where legal. What that means is If it says no parking, don't park there. If you have to make a parking space on grass, don't park there. Park with all four wheels on the pavement. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think if there's gravel on the side of the road, it looks like, then that's okay to pull off onto.
Yeah.
But otherwise, don't pull off of the road to make a parking space. You can park on Sickles Avenue. You could park on, can you park on the Wheatfield Road? You can't. No, don't park.
You cannot park on Wheatfield.
Do not park on Wheatfield Road. Ayers Avenue, you can park on.
You can, all of those roads down there are all wide enough they're all wide enough, other than when you go up Brook Avenue, you can't. But we're not going to go up there. So all of those roads are wide enough that you could park on the right side of the road. So always park on the right side of the road so people can drive on the left, all four wheels on the pavement. There is, when you're coming down, I can remember what it is. I think it is Ayers. There is that gravel area there.
Yeah.
One other thing that the park asks us is do not park in front of monuments. Leave those spots open for visitors.
Right.
So if it means you got to walk a little further, please do so. Leave those open. I would also ask for this one. Please don't park down in the tour stop area. So I think I can't remember what tour stop number that is.
Yeah.
Right
Where
down
the
at the bottom.
is.
So what he means by the tour stop is where the markers are on Sickles Avenue. That's what you're talking about?
Yep.
Markers on Sickles Avenue.
Waysides. There's a few
There's
waysides
wayside markers there, and there's a pull off there. Don't park there, because then people who are just coming through aren't going to be able to pull over, read it from their car, and move along. So leave that open for them. But before and after that spot, I think you're okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're smart, you'll park in the woods anyway, because then that way your car won't be 1,000 degrees when you go back into it.
Yeah. So we will, like you said, we will meet right up at Winslow's monument. It's a cannon right in the middle of the wheat field.
Yeah.
That's where I went. I've said this many times. The day I got my license, or I was told I passed my oral exam, because my father had died earlier that year. That's where I went after I found out I was going to be a guide. I went to Winslow's Battery. I don't know why I went there. Started talking to my dad. It was neat. And so for whatever reason, I've always been attracted to the wheat field.
Yeah.
But I don't know why.
Well,
it's a fascinating place.
It is a fascinating place, and we're going to be fascinated by all of your thoughts, questions, analyses, ideas, and particularly the things that you find most interesting about the wheat field and your take on the whole thing. Next month in May is May 23rd, 2026, 10 a.m. also, Major General Abner Doubleday and the defense of McPherson Seminary Ridges, July 1st, 1863. We will see you on the field this month for the wheat field, and then we'll see you here on the podcast at the beginning of next month to talk about next month's tour. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.